We have lights for. Namaskaras, everybody online and everybody here. We are very, very happy to have this fourth class in our series of the Ashtavakra Gita. Very, very happy to have. So we know we're live, that's good news. So we'll start with a chant as we always do. Om Sato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityur Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to mortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. So, I kind of, let these sessions kind of just come as they will through the grace of Saraswati Ma to whatever she wants to say during these things. But the thing that came to me was grace. When we're talking about the Ashtavakra Gita, we're talking about the experiencing of this unified consciousness where there's no second, there's only one. And so that's a very interesting and amazing, profound experience. And we'll actually do 3 or 4 chapters when we do our guided meditation of the Ashtavakra Gita today, because they're short. But what really came to me was I was reflecting on how we look at grace from the different stages of our sadhana, from the time that we're dualistic and we're looking at God as something separate from us, to the time when we feel a part of God, to the time when we are a part of God and there's nothing else, and how that reflects on how we feel and experience grace. So I thought that was kind of interesting and it kind of was inspiring to me. So that's kind of the theme of this class. So of course we're going to dive into the Ashtavakra Gita at the end and dive into that dualistic consciousness. But I thought that what we would do is, this is kind of what inspires me to think about it this way. Because remember when Sri Ramakrishna was talking about Lord Ramchandra, and he said to Hanuman said to Sri Ramachandra, Sri Rama, and he said, Lord, when I have consciousness of the body, then thou art the master and I am thy servant. When I consider myself as Jiva, the individual soul, then thou art the whole and I am thy part. And when I think I am the Atman, that is in the Samadhi state, I feel thou art I and I am thou, there is no difference. So these are the 3 stages of sadhana, and they're very, very kind of interesting because it's really practical for us, because Sri Ramakrishna really showed us that a master, he was experiencing in his life, he went through all of these 3 stages, but then after he had the final realization, which we're going to read from this book today, Ramakrishna and his disciples, we're going to discuss Sri Ramakrishna's experience and Todapuri. But after he had these experiences, this perfect experience, he still was able to go back down into the different stages of these sadhana, of these experiences, of this relationship with divine and the grace. And he talks about it when he's totally surrendered to that grace. So I just thought it would be very interesting for us to kind of take a look at things that way. So what we'll do, since we're right now starting at the dualistic stages, right? We're looking at these divine beings and we're whoever we are or whoever we think we are. And then we see this beautiful spirituality and we have this relationship with it. So I thought we'd do a chant. We'll start this with a chant to take us out of our day, to take us out of our minds and bring us more into our heart. And then when we discuss these things, we'll be able to not do it just from an intellectual standpoint, which is the whole point of this class. As we've said it before, many times you can study these scriptures and you can really just have an intellectual gymnastics with them so that you have a conception of what they're trying to convey. And the danger in that is that if you have an intellectual understanding, you might feel that you have the realization of that too. But Sri Ramakrishna warns over and over again that that's really dangerous. That if you think just because you understand something, and you can even teach it to other people, that you've really experienced it, is really kind of dangerous. So, the idea here is just to go beyond that intellectual state of mind, the intellectualism. It's important, but you have to go beyond it. And the story of Sri Ramakrishna is really beautiful about that. So let's chant Jai Shri Durga together, just to kind of bring us from the mind to the heart. This is a chant that was created first by Krishnadas. I rip off Krishnadas quite often, so I want to give credit where credit's due. And he had a song called Saraswati. And the chant is quite simple. It's Om Aim Saraswati Namaha, Namaha Om. And it's a really simple chant. But what I did was I just kind of added the four names of Ma, the ones that and actually the five, because we have Sri Sarda Devi. So we have Jai Ma Kali, Jai Ma Durga, Jai Ma Lakshmi, and Jai Ma Saraswati. So we'll do the chant and we'll invoke all of the deities and the Devis. And when we have our story with Sri Ramakrishna's experience, I think it fits in nicely, and it makes us kind of dovetail with that story. So let's try this. We'll try this chant first. Jai Ma Kali Namaha. Om Aim Jai Ma Kali Namaha. Om Aim Jai Ma Kali, Jai Ma Kali, Jai Ma Kali Namaha. Om Aim Jai Ma Durga Namaha. Om Aim Jai Ma Durga Namaha. Om Aim Jai Ma Durga, Jai Ma Durga, Jai Ma Durga Namaha. Om Aim Jai Ma Lakshmi Namaha. Om Aim Jai Ma Lakshmi Namaha. Om Aim Jai Ma Lakshmi, Jai Ma Lakshmi, Jai Ma Lakshmi Namaha. Om Aim Saraswati Namaha. Om Aim Saraswati Namaha. Om Aim Saraswati, Saraswati, Saraswati Namaha. So that's always nice. It's kind of interesting, and we'll start the story in a second, that when you think about our relationship to the world, when we start in life, we have kind of a deal where we have needs. We have things that we need to have. We're kind of helpless, especially as children. We're dependent on our parents to provide for us, to feed us, to protect us, and all these things. And that goes into a adolescence where, we start to transition over from complete dependence on our parents to taking more and more of that responsibility on ourselves. We're having to deal with somehow providing that, or making sure that's provided, or in some cases not having that provided. And so if you're really honest, this relationship we have with God in the beginning especially is kind of a needs-based relationship, if we're really honest. There's things that we require as human beings to just exist, but also to be contented. Connection, love, meaning in life, making a difference, having some kind of an impact in what you're doing, feeling fulfillment in those ways. Then, of course, we have all the things in the world we would want, right? From the basic things of food, shelter, basic transportation, to then maybe they get very fancy desires. So instead of a regular car, we want some fancy car, or we want some sports car, or just a regular house that you're comfortable in. We want something spectacular. And those are all fine, right? But the problem is that, it's kind of a bargaining situation, and we take that relationship into our relationship with God, and it's natural. We can't feel guilty about something that's kind of, our whole life has been created around our childhood and our dependence, and now we're dependent on everything. And so man's first reaching out to God, if you think about it, is the same as ours. It was based on what their needs were. They needed sun, they needed rain so that the crops grew. They needed water, they needed all these protection from animals, they needed all these things. And so instead of just at some point realizing that they just tried to do it themselves, they reached to something beyond themselves to help them, to give them grace, to give them blessings, to give them what they needed. So this is a very ancient habit, and that's programmed into all of our DNA, whether we can understand it and like it or not, but it's just true. Then, of course, when we're born into these modern lives, we have this with our parents. And then whatever religions we have, a lot of times they start off that way. Maybe in a time of crisis, you look to God for the first time. I know my parents were going through a divorce. And so I was always kind of spiritual because I always kind of thought of weird things when I was young. But I never really reached out to God in real urgency until my parents were going through a divorce, and I just felt like my whole world was disappearing. And so I remember I was, at that time I was an altar boy in Chicago, and there was a big stained glass picture of Jesus on the church. And I remember looking up for the first time to Jesus and just saying, help me, please help me. And so that was the first outreach that I had to God because of a tremendous need that I had. So that was the first personal kind of connection I had to what I considered God at that time, which was Jesus. That was what talked to me. And I had an actual feeling of response from that, where I felt that there was love and compassion and that things would be okay somehow. And that was really neat that you could get that kind of feeling from something numinous, something non-tangible, right? And so that's a natural thing we have. So we go to God a lot. Sometimes we kind of stay in that mode with God, with grace, just asking what we need. And basically the only time we pay attention is when we really need something. So we turn to God and we say, oh, I really need you now. Then of course you get it. And then you forget about God for a while, and then everything's okay, and you go on, and until the next crisis comes along, and then something else kind of turns your attention towards fulfillment. And I think it's wonderful that in Hinduism, that the Divine Mother is really such a beautiful way of conceiving God, because we have a natural affinity with our mother. father sometimes is scary, right? He can be really disciplinarian, and he can used to spank you or whatever the things was, or discipline you other ways. But mother was always kind of trying to make you feel okay, and she would interfere if she had to make peace with dad or something. She would do that. She was always our refuge. So turning to God as the divine mother is a really natural and wonderful thing, and it's a feeling of just acceptance and unconditional acceptance. And so I think a lot of Westerners, and I know the Indians are used to this, but some Westerners, when we start to really have a relationship with God and Divine Mother, it's such a beautiful thing because it's an unconditional love that comes from Mom. You can always go to Mom. And there's actually the reason why I did that chant with different names of Ma is because it's different aspects of Ma, of what she does for us, right? So, of course, Ma Kali is the whole of creation. She is the divine creatrix. She is, in essence, all of creation, including Brahmagyana and Vijnana, if you consider Shiva at the bottom there. But so Ma is all of creation. So, and she has benign and terrible aspects, just like creation. So she's the absolute sum total of all of creation. So when you go to her, she protects you. If you want her to protect you, and you finally have this relationship where she protects you. But to me, Durga Ma, when we go on an airplane or if we are doing something dangerous, she's our protectrix, right? She's the one who has the sword and the lion. And whenever I feel like I'm really been saved divinely, and sometimes my life has actually been saved divinely, I really turn to Ma Durga and just say, thank you, Ma, because that's the aspect. It's the same Ma, the same grace, but it's just that personality of the protectrix. And we can see and define that part of grace with Ma Durga. Of course, Ma Lakshmi. We all need stuff, right? We all need physical world. We need money to survive. We need fortune or want fortune or whatever it is. This whole abundance, the response, you need food, sometimes basic need, shelter, food. All these things are Ma Lakshmi. And sometimes she's very, very abundant. And sometimes she just basically always takes care of you, what you need. Not what you want, but what you need kind of thing. So Ma Lakshmi is a very interesting thing because a lot of people really, throw a lot of devotion to Ma Lakshmi because they really want physical things. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with these things. It's kind of a bargain with Ma Lakshmi. But, and then of course we have Saraswati Ma, who is, to me, first of all, it's the wisdom. She's the goddess of wisdom. She gives understanding. She lifts up your mind so that you can clear the fog. But she also is the goddess of pure expression, divine expression, through words, through music, through any kind of expression. So, you're being sustained by Ma Lakshmi, protected by Ma Durga, so that something beautiful can come through you from Ma Saraswati. That's my feeling. So otherwise, why would you be sustained? Why would you be protected if you're not going to be of use, if you're not going to give blessings, if you're not going to give positive energy, if you're not going to give beautiful things out of your life, out of your mouth, out of your actions? And so that's kind of a beautiful kind of harmony. And so when we think about grace, a lot of times we'll worship God for the needs that we have. And I think that's something that draws us to God. At some point, I think, we get through all these lifetimes, we end up getting everything we ever could possibly want at some point through some lifetime, the perfect marriage, then of course we pass away. All the money in the world, either we pass away or we lose it. All the accomplishments, the fame, the fortune, and then we either pass away or it goes away, right? They say some people that are very successful and very famous are so nervous and afraid of losing it that they never enjoy it, that they're so worried with all this stuff that it's going to go away. You just think about that. If you really had everything you ever wanted, what would be the logical next thing? You're going to lose it. Oh, I'm so worried. So they're constantly thinking about this. They're not at peace. They're not in joy. So it doesn't end there. There's no solution there. There's no resolution. There's no freedom from anxiety. There's no freedom from pain. And so this whole idea of Vedanta and the deep spiritual, inner spiritual, comes to those who start to realize they're past all of these more superficial relationships with the divine. And they realize there has to be something more if they really want to have peace. if they really want to be beyond the possibility of suffering, as what the scriptures tell us that is possible, even the possibility, even that option is not there. Beyond all suffering and all duality. So this is something that, I think the second stage that starts to happen is then you start to have a love for that divine essence, whether it be Ma Kali, Ma, one form of Ma, or Krishna, or Shiva, or Sri Krishna, or any of the gurus that you have in your heart. And you start having a true love for that being. And what becomes more important than the things becomes that love, becomes that feeling that it takes you beyond that misery. And so you start to realize that the whole point behind this is that love. And so unconditional love for that aspect becomes the more predominant. We always need stuff as a body, that's normal. But I think this pure love that Swamiji talks about, that all the Ramakrishna talks about, where it wants nothing, it demands nothing, it needs nothing, except for that love, to be in that state of grace, to be in that state of connection. And so that goes from this dualistic thing to now you start having this beautiful connection of unconditional love, and more of you gets absorbed into that. So as Ramchandra said, when I start to see that I'm the Jaiva, I'm Atman, I'm a part of you. You are the whole, and I'm a part. And so you become now identified, same substance with this divinity, this grace and this blessing. So instead of just seeing the complete separation and that you're the creation and that's the creator, even though that's your mom or dad or something like that, this is now the same substance, the same thing. And this is very, very deep. And then, of course, this opens up the whole floodgates of being able to get closer and closer and closer. As Sri Krishna said, the Jnani wants to have no distance between him and his beloved. So then they disappear. So there's really only one, this state of Brahmagyan, of Jnani. And so what we'll do is I want to read this story. This is so amazing. This is believe it or not, this is the first book I ever read about Sri Ramakrishna when I was in the ashram in 1982, 81. And so somebody gave me this in the ashram, in the Yogananda's ashram, believe it or not. And so this is the first thing that I read, and it was really impactful. I started immediately starting to have this feeling of connection to Sri Ramakrishna. So this is the first part I wanted to read is when Sri Ramakrishna was in the Kali temple of Dakshineswar, he went through many phases of sadhana. And the Bharavi, his first teacher was a tantric woman nun, and basically he perfected this dualistic, perfect relationship with Divine Mother, Kali, to where she was completely in control. He surrendered his whole being to her, and she directed absolutely everything. So he lived by her will. He moved by her will. He was completely in connection. He was identified with her constantly. So there's different stages he went through that this book talks about. So he got to the point of this beautiful state. And then one day, this monk, Todapuri, who was a Naga sadhu. These are sadhus in India that don't wear much or nothing. So Naga means naked. So Sri Ramakrishna called him Nagda, but they call him the naked one in the translation. And so he came on a boat and he landed at the Ghat, and everybody describes the scene. I won't read it because it's too long. I want to focus on the other stories, but he lands on the Ghat and he sees everybody, and they're basically dressed the same way in their white, householder kind of clothes. But he noticed immediately Sri Ramakrishna sitting in the corner in the same dress as everyone else. And he went right up to him. And by the way, he didn't have any visions of Ramakrishna being there or anything. It says that he could have been anybody. But as soon as he saw him, he knew something special about him. So he went right up to Sri Ramakrishna. He said, "You seem to be able to study the Vedanta." And he said, "Would you like to?" And Sri Ramakrishna said, "Oh, I have to ask my mother first." And so, of course, Todapuri didn't know Ramakrishna. He thought he was going to ask his mom, his real, his physical mother. But no, Sri Ramakrishna went right into the temple, into Kali Ma's temple, and asked Ma, and he came out. They said the way it's described, he comes out beaming with joy, and he goes to Nakta and he says, "Yes, Ma says that's why you're here to teach me this Vedanta, this Vedanta." And Todapuri said, "Then you have to become a renunciant. You have to become a Swami, because this is only taught generally in the traditional ways to renunciants, those who renounce everything for the realization of God." And so he said, "Okay, but I don't want my mother to know about it, because she'll get all freaked out that I'm going to be a monk and I'll go away from her. So let's do it in private." So they went ahead and did the initiation. And remember that Sri Ramakrishna constantly had this, he actually saw Kali as a person running around the temple. It wasn't just something he'd go into the temple. He'd see her in the courtyard. He'd see her along the Ganga, and she'd be dancing, and her anklets would be. So he had this perfect relationship with her that was living. So we have to understand where he was at when this whole thing started. But this is after the meditation, after the initiation. It says that Tota lighted his Duni fire in the Panchvati and established himself there to await the propitious hour for the initiation. This took place a few days later, about 2 hours before dawn, in a hut just east of the grove. This hut still stands today as that's on the garden. If you've ever been there, it's an amazing place to go. The energy is very powerful. So this is how Ramakrishna described what followed the initiation. "After initiating me, the Naked One taught me many sayings expressing the philosophy of non-dualism. He told me to withdraw my mind from all creatures and objects and plunge it into contemplation of the Atman. But when I sat down to meditate in this way, I found I couldn't make my mind go quite beyond name and form. I couldn't stop it working and make it still. My mind could stop being conscious of creatures and objects. That wasn't difficult. But whenever I did this, the Divine Mother appeared before me in the form that I knew so well, that form which is made of pure consciousness. It was her own living form which stopped me from going any further. Again and again, I listened to the instructions, sat down to meditate, and again it happened. I almost despaired. I opened my eyes and I told the Naked One, 'No, it can't be done. I can't stop my mind from working. I can't make it plunge into the Atman.' The Naked One got excited and he scolded me severely. 'What do you mean can't be done?' he cried. 'It must be done.' Then he looked around the hut till he found a bit of broken glass. And he stuck the point of it into my forehead between the eyebrows. It was sharp as a needle. 'Fix the mind here,' he told me. So I sat down to meditate again, firmly determined. And as soon as Mother's form appeared, I took my knowledge of non-duality as if it was a sword in my hand, and I cut Mother in 2 pieces with that sword of knowledge. As soon as I'd done that, there was nothing relative left in the mind. It entered the place where there was no second, only the one." Ramakrishna had gone into Nirbhakapa Samadhi for the first time. In Nirbhakapa, there is absolutely no distinction between the knower and the known. The Atman is Brahman, and even the faintest trace of individuality is lost. The lower states of Samadhi, into which Ramakrishna had entered already many times, lacked this completeness of union. Ramakrishna knew that Mother Kali was not other than Brahman, yet because of his great love for her, he was at first unable to accept that fact completely. To do so was as terrible as an act of murder. That is why he speaks of this knowledge as a sword. Ramakrishna's love for Kali was the last remaining trace of dualism in his mind. When he could go beyond that, he could attain union with Brahman. So that's a really amazingly beautiful depiction of what Ramakrishna, his whole life obviously is for us to learn from. He didn't probably need to go through these things for his own purposes, but it was a story and pictures of his tableau of his life, of every possible way to get to God. I mean, some devotees would never go into this side. They'll stay with their devotion to Kali Ma or to Krishna or to Rama. But for those, he's mapped out for everybody, all the different steps. It's just amazing. And so this is a really amazing kind of description of what we're trying to express and experience here. And he said some very important things. to go beyond name and form. So we're going to read the Ashtavakra Gita in just a little while and do a guided meditation as we usually do. But that's what we're trying to accomplish here. But at the same time, we're not there yet. So we need to be able to use all of this devotion, all of these beautiful things, all the 4 yogas in harmony. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, jnana yoga, raja yoga, in harmony, so that we can use all the tools to be able to progress and to go beyond the suffering and pain of the world. And if you still need to gain something in your life, if you still have desires, Srimad Krishna said, renunciation is a result of satiation. So you need to satiate yourself from all the desires you have. Get them. Like Swamiji said, if you want to be a millionaire, become a millionaire. You'll find that that's not really going to be making you happy, but you need to do it just the same. So whatever it is we want, a beautiful wife, husband, children, do that. But at the same time, try to apply to find the answer to suffering also as best we can. Whatever stage we're at, try to find that answer to suffering so we can solve that problem before. But this is something interesting. So now, Sri Ramakrishna is in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Todapuri himself experienced Nirvikalpa Samadhi. So he had that unitive state. He did it by discrimination, though. He did it not by meditation, not by devotion. As a matter of fact, he was actually against, he thought everybody who was worshiping the different images and so on were really degraded and dragging the whole spirituality, Sanatana Dharma, down. And he had no respect at all for devotion and relationship with God. He was a pure non-dualist from his childhood, basically. He went into the order of Nakta Swamis and only had this unitive expression, and totally was not looking at the world as a dream. Something like what also happened to Shankara in his life. But that is not the end of all of this. The world as a dream is one stage this Sri Ramakrishna is teaching us. And so what Swami Medhananda focuses on is Vijnana. Once you've climbed up all those stairs, what's the purpose? You already were Brahman. So what, just go back to Brahman? Not exactly. The whole idea then, of course, is to be able to have this beautiful relationship anytime you want to. Anytime you would, as Ramakrishna has shown, you can go to Mahabhava, where you're just in the space between non-form and this beautiful, pure world of spirituality. So this is the lesson that Todapuri needed to still learn. So he showed Sri Ramakrishna how to enter Nirvikalpa Samadhi, but Sri Ramakrishna was going to kind of show him a little something too. Or we should say Makali. Of course, it's the same as Sri Ramakrishna. So this is something that we have from Todapuri. So this is kind of the personalities of Ramakrishna and Todapuri present a striking and often amusing contrast. Toto had been wrong in supposing that he could change Ramakrishna's beliefs by initiating him into non-dualism. The experience of Nirvikalpa Samadhi did not lessen his devotion to Kali and Krishna. Since childhood, Ramakrishna had been accustomed to chant Krishna's name as the sun was setting, dancing and clapping his hands as he did so. One evening, when he was with Tota, he began acting in this manner. "What are you doing?" Tota asked him sarcastically. "Making chapatis?" The chapati is the thin, unleavened bread made by clapping of the hands. Ramakrishna laughed, but he reproved Tota for his intolerance, and Tota never made fun of Ramakrishna's devotions again. There's a story of Tota where he had shown anger. He had Duni fire, which is a sacred thing to the Naktas, because they don't have clothes, so fire is an important thing to keep warm and cook and all that. So one of the servants at the temple kind of staggered over, wanted to get a coal for his pipe from this sacred fire, and he got really mad at this guy and almost beat him with his tongs. And Ramakrishna, of course, was laughing like crazy, going, "Oh, where's your Brahman now? You forgot all about Brahman. You're angry at this poor guy." And so Tota, to his credit, he said, "Oh, yes, I see that I became angry and I didn't remember Brahman, so I won't do it again." And he never did, they say. So, so this is really so profound and something that really hit me when I first read it. And all my life, I've reflected on this story. Tota's constitution has always been strong, But he had a little experience of the miseries of, experience of the miseries of physical life. He was early mid-age at this point. The aches and pains which distract the mind from contemplation. But now the climate and the water of Bengal began to affect him, and he had a severe attack of blood dysentery. At the first warnings of the disease, he thought he should go away, but he found himself unwilling to leave the company of Sri Ramakrishna, to whom he had become devoted. Several times he made his mind to go to Ramakrishna and bid him goodbye, but as soon as the two were together, they would become absorbed and talk about God, and Tota forgot his purpose. By the way, Tota, being a Nagasadu, they don't stay in a place more than 3 days. It's kind of their rule. So this was very rare for him to stay in one place like this. He would have never done it before. So he grew steadily weaker and weaker, despite the medicines which Ramakrishna obtained for him through Mathura. Tota had always scorned the body and believed it should be rejected at once if it interfered with one's awareness of Brahman. One night, as he lay alone in the Panchvati, Tota found that he was in such pain that he could no longer meditate. He was filled with disgust for his body. I must get rid of this nuisance, he said to himself. Why do I stay in it and suffer? I'll commit it to the Ganga. So it goes on to say that Hinduism totally discourages suicide, obviously. It's not because it just generally for the average person puts him in a horrible situation karmically. But once Brahman is realized, and this is what it says, but once Brahman is known, the body has served its purpose. Therefore, if a knower of Brahman like Totapuri decides to discard it, his act is not to be regarded as suicide in a culpable sense. Fixing his mind on Brahman, Tota waded out into the great river, but he did not drown. Speaking about this episode many years later, Ramakrishna said that Tota must have chanced to walk along a shoal which ran out from the bank near the bathing ghat, a little below the surface of the water. After a while, in the middle of the river, trees and houses began to be visible through the darkness, and he realized that he had crossed almost to the other side. And now he had a dazzling sense of enlightenment. He understood the power of Maya. Mother is indeed omnipotent, he exclaimed. Until she wills, the body is not even able to die. For the first time, his heart was overcome with the love for Divine Mother. He waded back the way he had come, reached the Panchvati, and sat down beside the fire. In the morning, when Ramakrishna came to visit Tota, he found him transformed. He was smiling with the bliss, and the sickness had entirely left him. He signed to Ramakrishna to sit down beside him, and he said, "The disease has acted like a friend to me. Ah, how ignorant I have been for all these years." And as the horns of the musicians sounded their morning music from the Mahabad, Tota accompanied Ramakrishna for the first time to the Kali temple and prostrated himself before the image. Tota felt now that the Divine Mother's double purpose in bringing him to Dakshineswar had been accomplished. A few days later, he said goodbye to Sri Ramakrishna and started on his homeward journey. His intended 3-day visit had stretched itself to 11 months. He never returned. So there's a lot to unpack there. These are concepts and realities that are far beyond us average people. Just to be able to go into the non-dual state, which we're going to start talking about. But as you can see in this defining of grace, it becomes first a bargaining with God, kind of something you need, kind of a shopkeeper's religion that Swamiji used to call it. But then it becomes closer where you have this unlimited, pure love that gets there. And then you feel that you're the same substance with your beloved. And then finally, there's no separation. There's only one awareness. There's no time. There's nothing. And then think about what that grace would be. That grace is totally internal. It's totally a part of that one consciousness. It's not separate from you. It is you. Your substance is it. So it becomes one. And so grace goes from this completely dualistic kind of bargaining all the way until there's only grace and there's nothing else. And so, we have to think about, how do we feel we deserve grace? This is a really, really interesting self-question, and everybody has their own answers, and sometimes people feel that they don't deserve grace, that they're guilty of doing bad things or whatever it is. These things have to be resolved because they said shame, shame, anger, fear, all these things have to be discarded before you can be connected with God, before you can have that pure relationship with God. So all of these negative things that you think you are not. And one by one, they're discarded. One by one, there's only the one. And so why would you be deserving of grace? Well, if you look at it from the point of view of the Brahmagyani, you are that. There is nothing else. Of course you're worthy. You are the grace in the ultimate sense, and that's the truth. You never were not that. So there's no earning it in the ultimate sense. You don't have to earn the grace of God in that way. But to be able to really absorb that, that's why Bhakti Yoga is so beautiful, because it gives us this pure love, not asking anything in return. That's why Karma Yoga is so beautiful, because it purifies our own thinking about ourselves so that we don't feel that we're not worthy. We don't feel that there is an obstruction. Those are what those are for. So we have to be honest of where we are. So really ask ourselves, do we feel we're worthy? If not, how can you break that? How can you get rid of that concept from your mind truly? Not in theory, but in your life. And this is what this study is all about when we're talking about these things. So we're talking about this non-separation and non-dualism. Before we even arrive there, we start to see what is telling us about who we are and where we stand. For Christians, I'm the son or daughter of God, so Jesus died for me. That's great. But still, there's this thing, maybe I'm bad and he's not going to accept me, right? This is still a nebulous situation. What we're talking about here is the substance of who and what you are is already that divine purity. It never can be anything else. And we can start to absorb that slowly. And slowly, all of those guilts and all those fears and all those things that hold us back can be dissolved into the purity of the divine. And so that's what all of this worship's about. All of this stuff, it has beauty and relevance. That's why even after Brahmagyana, coming back into this world, Divine Mother is omnipotent, as Toda Puri so beautifully said. When you're in separate embodiment, when you're identified with any body at all, the causal, the astral, or the physical, she's omnipotent. We have to propitiate Ma. We have to Ishvara, however you want to conceive of it, this divine created matrix, and we have to have respect for it, and we have to have love for it and humility. And so this is really, really key, no matter what state. Now, once the mind, as Ramchandra, as Hanuman said, once you're in that unified state, that's different. But the moment we come down from that, this is the rule and the law. And so all this always has meaning, especially for those who are perfected. They teach us who are not, or a perfect understanding. We're perfect, right? But our understanding may not be perfect. But they're doing all of these different actions just for our benefit, to show us what we need to do. So they're an example, not for their own understanding. So now let's go into the Ashtavakra Gita. And what I'm going to do is we'll do our guided meditation and get our mind to where we're in that unified state where we're the observer. And then when we're in that observing state where there's no anger, fear, shame, doubt, there's no past, present, future, then we'll be able to listen to these words as awareness and let them really soak into our consciousness. The Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, as we talked about, we'll listen to these things. We're not going to contemplate with our minds, but let them seep deep inside. And then we can actually have that experience, Nididhyasana, because this is a Nididhyasana scripture, as Swami Sarvapriyanandaji has told us. So let us use some of the tools that we have given. Soham, remember this pranayam that we use. Soham, I am he, I am that. with every breath, we can be affirming that reality. That's Soham. I am that. There's no difference. So what we'll do is we're going to do some deep breathing, a couple deep breaths, 3 times. And then once the breath is in and out for the final time, let it just stay out. And then just observe it, just like you're the observer. This is a beautiful meditation that we can use anytime to release ourselves from all of the nonsense the mind does to us. And become that awareness, which is close to that purity and all the answers and all the energy and all the power and all the things that we want to be connected with, all that love. So let us just become that awareness, consciousness, and then I'll read the chapters and let us just absorb it. And then we'll be silent after for a little while. Just let that kind of soft waft over us, okay? So let us do the pranayama. And first let's breathe. Breathe in with 2 times through the nose. Hold it and exhale through the mouth. Like this. It really gets through a deep breath and it gets all the toxins and all the nitrogen out, oxygen in. So we'll try to do that 3 times. And then just let on the 3rd time, let the breath stay out and then just observe it. When it comes in of itself, you'll see that there's an automatic breathing that starts to happen and you're just observing. It's beautiful. You'll chant so mentally. And then it'll stop for a while. And then when it of its own, it goes out, hum. And then just let it, just watch it again. And of its own, it'll come in again. So let it say hum. Okay. So this is the Soham meditation, and it's so beautiful. It's so powerful. Kashmiri Shaivism, this is where this comes from, and I talked about this to Swami Sarvakriyanandaji when I was in Monterey just recently. So I told him I stole his idea, and he loved it. He was happy. So let's do this together. Ready? We'll do the inhalation. Exhale. Let's do it together. Inhale. Exhale. One more time. Inhale. Tense the whole body. Hold. Exhale. Relax all the tension. Just watch the breath. When it comes in of its own soul, when it stays, just observe. It goes out. Is that witness consciousness. You are the observer, nothing else. No qualities, no emotions, just pure awareness. You are that awareness. And we will read the Ashtavakra Gita. Just listen to as I read it. Be just aware of the words emanating from the infinite source. That this is coming from your own inner self. These words are forming themselves from the infinite source, coming to our own awareness, speaking directly to us. And let us absorb its meaning, its essence. And this is chapter 4, The True Seeker. The wise man knows the self, and he plays the game of life. fool lives in the world like a beast of burden. The true seeker feels no elation, even in that exalted state, which Indra and all the gods unhappily long for. He understands the nature of things. His heart is not smudged by right or wrong, as the sky is not smudged by smoke. He is pure of heart. He knows the whole world is only the self. So who can stop him from doing as he wishes? Of the four kinds of being, from Brahma to a blade of grass, only the wise man is strong enough to give up desire and aversion. How rare he is, knowing he is the self. He acts accordingly and is never fearful, for he knows he is the self, one without two, the Lord of all creation. Chapter 5, dissolving. You are pure. Nothing touches you. What is there to renounce? Let it all go. The body and the mind. Let yourself dissolve. Like bubbles in the sea, all the worlds arise in you. Know you are the self. Know you are the one. Let yourself dissolve. You see the world, but like the snake in the rope, it is not really there. You are pure. Let yourself dissolve. You are one and the same, in joy and sorrow, hope and despair, life and death. You are already fulfilled. Let yourself dissolve. 6, knowledge. I am boundless space. The world is a clay pot. This is the truth. There is nothing to accept, nothing to reject, nothing to dissolve. I am the ocean. All the worlds are like waves. This is the truth. Nothing to hold on to, nothing to let go of, nothing to dissolve. I am the mother of pearl. The world is a vein of silver, all illusion. This is the truth. Nothing to grasp, nothing to spurn, nothing to dissolve. I am in all beings. All beings are in me. This is the whole truth. Nothing to embrace, nothing to relinquish, nothing to dissolve. The boundless ocean. I am the boundless ocean, this way and that. The wind blowing where it will, drives the ship of the world. But I am not shaken. I am the unbounded deep, in whom the waves of all the worlds naturally rise and fall. But I do not rise or fall. I am the infinite deep, in whom all the worlds appear as to rise, beyond all form, forever still. Even so am I. I am not in the world. The world is not in me. I am pure. I am unbounded, free from attachment, free from desire, still. Even so am I. Oh, how wonderful. I am awareness itself, no less. The world is a magic show, but in me, there is nothing to embrace and nothing to turn away. Peace. We just want to do a little bit of these meditation. I would recommend, because we want to keep this to around an hour. If you want to do this and listen to the class again, pause that part of meditation and make it as long as you wish. Because at that point, when we're just that awareness, Ramana Maharshi said it over and over and over again. That's it. That is what we're looking at, our awareness. It's as close to us as that awareness. There's nothing closer. And that's what we want to experience. Once that becomes more predominant and the thoughts fade away and we can stay in that awareness, we can stay in that original primal consciousness. We actually will go beyond. He said that you might search for your individual I and you'll find that there's no such thing. This is what he's stating. Of course, this is what Sri Ramakrishna experienced. We're not, maybe not at that point yet, but we can get the tip of the iceberg, can't we? We can get that primal awareness, that pure state. We can experience it, we can touch it. And then we just have to bring it more and more to our consciousness. That's all this is all about. The Ashtavakra Gita, as you can see, it's an experience, it's not words. It's not intellectualism, it's an experience. You have to experience it. You can't read it here. You really have to experience it. So that's why this is such a beautiful, beautiful scripture. And all of them, Mandukya Upanishad and all these, but this one, and this is Thomas, by the way, for don't know, this is Thomas Byron's version, translation of the Ashtavakra Gita. So if you don't have it, you might want to get it. You can get it on Amazon. If you come to the center, just let us know. We can order you one. But I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you all. It was a joy. And I look forward to doing another class. We will actually be able to do the next class next week. So we will have this class again on July 6th. It'll be class 4. So we'll have some interruption as the summer goes through. There'll be some events and things and other swamis we have here. But on those times when we don't have other events, then we will continue with this series until we finish the Ashtavakra Gita. Okay, thank you so much. Namaskar to everyone. Thank you.
Which chapter did you read today?
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Which chapter did you read today?
Let me turn this on. I'm sorry.